In the top stories, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be joining regional leaders at the 50th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM meeting. Cuba's healthcare system is under pressure as a result of fuel shortages and sanctions, and violence has erupted in Mexico after special military forces shot and killed cartel leader El Menco on the weekend. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Major Newscast. Today is Monday, the 23rd day of February, and I am Jasmine Thomas. The United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be among the high-level international guests attending the Heads of CARICOM meeting this week. Rubio is scheduled to address the opening plenary session on Wednesday. The 50th regular meeting of CARICOM heads is being held under the theme Beyond Words, Action Today for a Thriving, Sustainable CARICOM, and is expected to bring together more than 200 delegates from member states, associate members, and regional institutions. The conference will also feature addresses from international partners, including Saudi Arabia's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Adel Al-Jubeir, Commonwealth Secretary General Shirley Botchway, United Arab Emirates Minister of State Noura Al-Kabi, and African Export-Import Bank President Dr. George Elombi. Officials say the participation of these dignitaries reflects growing global interest in the Caribbean and its role in international cooperation. St. Kitts and Nevis has begun welcoming delegations from across the region as the Federation prepares to host the 50th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of CARICOM, scheduled for February 24 to 27 in Basse-Terre. Delegations began arriving on Sunday, with representatives from Suriname and Curacao among the first to touch down. Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, held courtesy talks with Suriname's President Jennifer Geerling-Simons as early diplomatic engagements got underway. Arriving today are officials from the Cayman Islands, the Turks and Caicos Islands, Belize, Trinidad and Tobago, Anguilla, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica, along with CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett. The remaining delegations are expected over the next 2 days. The summit will be held under the Regional Development and Cooperation Agenda, with leaders set to discuss security, economic growth, climate resilience, food and energy security, and coordinated foreign policy responses to global developments. During tomorrow's opening ceremony, several speakers will be featured, including CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Barnett, Dr. Andrew Holness of Jamaica, Kamala Prasad Bissessa, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and Dr. Godwin Friday, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As host and current chairman of CARICOM, Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew will also address the meeting, which is expected to produce policy decisions and joint positions on key regional and international issues. And the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, is driving home the importance of CARICOM to St. Kitts and Nevis ahead of this week's 50th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of CARICOM being held in Basse-Terre. Speaking with ZIZ News, Dr. Drew said the Federation benefits from a range of initiatives that are facilitated through CARICOM, many of which would have been difficult for small states to develop on their own.
I want to remind our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis that CARICOM is very important for our national development. There are institutions within CARICOM that we benefit from, of course we contribute to them, that we will not be able to do by ourselves. For example, SEDIMA, that deals with natural disasters or disasters in general. We can't do that by ourselves. We don't have the personnel and we don't have the resources by ourselves. But within the framework of CARICOM, of course we can have that. We should never take that for granted. Look at, for example, CISEC. We do regional exams, CISEC, and that is because of CARICOM. St. Kitts and Nevis cannot form its own examination board that will be respected internationally, and hardly any other country in the Caribbean can do that. We came from English exams, London and Cambridge and so forth, to come to CIZ. That's an advancement in our civilization as Caribbean people. Look at RSS, Regional Security Systems. St. Kitts and Nevis, if something serious were to happen in St. Kitts and Nevis, we don't have enough police officers, nor enough military personnel to handle a serious security breach in St. Kitts and Nevis. But through RSS, we will have forces coming almost immediately from our CARICOM brothers and sisters. I want to.
Dr. Drew, who currently serves as chairman of CARICOM, also held one-on-one meetings with several regional heads of government in the lead-up to the conference. He said those direct engagements will go a long way to strengthening the quality of discussions when leaders gather from the 24th to the 27th of February.
I think it would help tremendously. We're all human beings, and when you do a sincere personal approach, it always helps. It helps the conversations, it helps with camaraderie, it helps with building better relationships and so forth. So this approach, I think, would help. And the leaders received me with open arms, a lot of love, collaboration. They were happy to see me, and I want to thank them for really affording me the opportunity to sit with them, to dialogue with them in the way that we did. And for those who I did not get to visit before, I will definitely visit them before my chairmanship is up, which is in about June, which at the end of June it will be 6 months. I think it would help tremendously. We're all human.
Prime Minister Drew also offered the assurance that St. Kitts and Nevis will deliver a well-organized CARICOM heads of government meeting.
We have been preparing for a while now, and so I think we are at a point where we are ready to deliver a successful conference. And so I want to ask the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to join with the government in being good hosts, in treating our guests well. That is who we are as a people, so that they will never ever forget the wonderful time that they would have had in St. Kitts and Nevis while we discuss very important matters that are important for regional issues and also on the international scene. So I ask us to really embrace our CARICOM brothers and sisters that we have been doing all.
Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Christopher and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew. We now take a look at news on the regional scene. Cuba's healthcare system is facing a deepening crisis, with authorities warning that fuel shortages and long-standing sanctions are now directly affecting patient care. Cuban health officials say restrictions on oil supplies have left ambulances struggling to respond to emergencies and hospitals dealing with repeated power outages, disrupting critical services. They have warned that the situation is no longer just an economic issue, but a public safety concern, adding that the U.S. actions against Cuba are putting lives at risk. Officials estimate about 5 million people living with chronic illnesses may see their treatments interrupted, including thousands of cancer patients requiring radiotherapy and chemotherapy. The energy shortage has also forced flights carrying medical supplies to be suspended, as airports are unable to refuel aircraft, while some high-tech tests, such as CT scans and laboratory procedures, have been limited. Despite the strain, authorities say clinics are prioritizing children and the elderly and have installed solar panels at some facilities to maintain basic services, while doctors increasingly rely on more basic methods of diagnosis and care. And the Bahamas Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper is rejecting as false a document circulating on social media claiming he had contact with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Cooper says he has never met, communicated with, or received any campaign contribution from Epstein or anyone acting on his behalf. In a statement, the Tourism, Investments and Aviation Minister said the material appeared to be fabricated and contained basic errors that cast doubt on its authenticity, including incorrectly dated emails. Cooper added that his campaign disclosures and public record remain open to scrutiny. He warned that as the election campaign in Bahamas intensifies, the public should be cautious about online content, noting that manipulated images and AI-generated documents can be created and shared quickly. Jeffrey Epstein died in a New York prison in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. He had earlier been convicted of soliciting a minor and was registered as a sex offender. And now for news on the international scene. Mexico is on high alert after the country's most wanted drug lord was killed during a security operation, sparking widespread violence across multiple states. Nemesio Oguciero Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, was the leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. He died after being seriously injured in clashes between his supporters and the Mexican army on Sunday. 4 cartel members were killed in the operation and 3 soldiers were wounded, according to the Defense Ministry. In the hours that followed, retaliatory attacks spread rapidly, gunmen took to the streets, roads were blocked with burning vehicles, and smoke was seen rising over several cities, including Guadalajara, one of the host cities for the upcoming FIFA World Cup. Jalisco State have halted public transport, cancelled clashes, and suspended mass gatherings. President Claudia Sheinbaum said federal and state authorities are coordinating their response and urged the public to remain calm, adding that most areas of the country continue to function normally. El Mencho, a former police officer, led one of the world's most powerful cartels, accused of trafficking large quantities of cocaine and fentanyl into the United States. And the European Union is seeking clarity from the United States after a U.S. Supreme Court ruling overturned some of President Donald Trump's sweeping global tariffs, raising fresh uncertainty over transatlantic trade. EU officials said the decision, followed by President Trump's proposal to raise a global tariff to 15%, has created instability for businesses and investors on both sides of the Atlantic. The European Commission, which negotiates trade for its 27 member states, is now calling on Washington to honor existing agreements and maintain predictable trade rules. Last year, the United States and the European Union reached a deal imposing a 15% import tax on most European goods entering the American market. European leaders warn the current dispute could undermine the arrangement. Washington, however, says the agreements remain in place. U.S. trade officials report they have no formal indication that the deal is being cancelled and expect partners to wait for the legal process to play out. European officials warn that unpredictable tariffs can disrupt supply chains and global markets, particularly in industries such as automobiles, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, and aerospace, all major export sectors between the two sides. We now take a look at the weather. Skies are currently fair across the Federation. A gentle breeze is blowing from the east-southeast at around 9 miles per hour. This will increase later to between 10 and 18 miles per hour. Seas are moderate with wave heights of between 1.2 and 1.4 meters, or about 4 to 6 feet. For the rest of today, expect mostly sunny conditions with a 40% chance of passing showers. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a 40% chance of passing showers. Sunset this evening is set to be at about 6:16 and sunrise tomorrow will be at around 6:30. That brings us to the end of the Midday Major Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more. Thank you for tuning in. I am Jasmine Thomas. God bless you.